Peter Griffin has done a lot of insane things. He's blown up his own house, fought a giant chicken across multiple time zones, and even tried to breastfeed a child with his own nipples. But you know what Peter seems to do better than anyone else on Earth? Fall into comas. He's been in comas more than any other person on TV, and somehow he always wakes up like nothing happened. Today, we're looking at the times Peter Griffin has ended up in a coma, along with everything that led to it, happened during it, or honestly should have put him right back in one. The first time Peter Griffin ever ends up in a coma is in the episode Are You There, God? It's Me, Peter. And honestly, it couldn't be a more Peter way to go into a coma. The episode starts with something seemingly harmless, a free preview weekend on cable. We're talking about premium channels including Cinemax. Now, for most people that just means background noise. For Peter, it's a full spiritual commitment. He instantly decides he will be lying on the couch for the entire weekend watching everything that moves, especially the ones that jiggle.
I hope you don't plan on just lying on the couch and watching TV all weekend.
That's exactly what I plan to do. It's a free premium channel preview weekend. Even Cinemax. One of the shows is actually two boobs fighting. Sadly, there's still no penetration.
Lois sees this disaster forming and tries to intervene. She tells him to get off the couch and do something useful. He refuses. He's glued to the TV, fully convinced that even the worst movie on Cinemax is better than facing the real world. So, she takes it up a notch. She threatens not to give him food. Peter's response? He casually says he has $1,000 Uber Eats credit after a driver pinched his bottom, which raises more questions than answers, but somehow fits his life perfectly. Lois finally throws down the ultimate threat: no sex. And Peter, he barely blinks. He turns to her and in classic deadpan fashion responds with something so cruel and equally dumb.
Okay, well, if you don't get up, I won't have sex with you.
And that will be different how?
And I'm still married to you because...
Now, while Peter continues molding himself into the shape of the couch, Quagmire and the boys show up outside. They're screaming about something truly life-changing: a used condom on the sidewalk. Well, I don't know why this is so exciting for them, but that's not the focus of our story. For Peter, this is enough motivation to finally move. Not Lois's pleas, not hygiene or even common sense, but the chance to high-five his friends over a stranger's condom, that's worth standing up for. So he tries to get up, and then we discover the full horror. Peter is fused with the chair. Literally, his skin's attached itself to the fabric after a day of sweat, heat, and inactivity. He's now physically and even biologically connected to the furniture. He ends up at the hospital, laid out on an exam table with the entire chair still attached to his back. Dr. Hartman doesn't seem all that alarmed. Instead of treating it like an emergency, he plays Peter a video starring Oliver Pratt explaining the very real medical phenomenon of fat guy fusion. Peter listens intently as Platt describes how prolonged contact and body moisture can cause skin to adhere to upholstery fibers. The solution? A high-speed removal method called rip you off real fast, which is every bit as horrifying as it sounds. Well, most people in such a situation would beg for anesthesia, but Peter does the opposite. He tells his doctor he wants to keep the chair. He likes it. He says this situation is nothing compared to other things he's lived through, which we can all agree is true. So he heads home, still fully fused with a chair on his back like some kind of demented superhero, and it's not going well. His sheer bulk plus the added width of the chair turns Peter into a walking wrecking ball. He punches holes into the drywall without realizing, he smashes furniture, and at one point, Chris stands in the kitchen and casually asks why he can see the living room. The house is literally falling apart. That's when Lois makes a decision. If Peter won't remove the chair medically, she's doing it her way. She slips an Ambien into his beer while he's distracted. Not exactly safe, but also not surprising. Meg says she's seen her do it before, and Lois just shrugs it off and says all adults need Ambien to even pretend to sleep, which says more about the Griffin household than anyone should be comfortable with.
I put an Ambien in his beer so he's out cold.
I saw you put Ambien in your beer, too.
Every adult has to take Ambien every night to even have a prayer at sleep.
Now, Peter's passed out cold. He's snoring on the floor like an unconscious recliner. Meg, Chris, and Lois gather around him holding scissors. Their plan? They're going to detach a fused adult man from a couch using household scissors. Chris looks at Peter's back and can't tell where the skin ends and the chair begins. Lois tells him to just aim for the skin. Well, that'll definitely do it. Just as they start snipping, Peter begins to wake up. He hears them talking and immediately launches into a full meltdown. He claims they're ungrateful and that he busts his back trying to bring home bacon for this family. Then admits he spent all the money on bacon. Yes, all of it. Lois tries to explain how insane he sounds, but Peter's on a roll. He complains that his feet are too swollen to fit in anyone else's shoes. Why? The bacon. Again, always the bacon.
I worked my ass off to bring home the bacon for this family, and all you can say is, we don't want bacon, we want actual money. Well, I don't have money, I spent it all on bacon.
Peter, put yourself in our shoes.
I can't, my feet swelled up too much from all the bacon.
Lois, exhausted, gives up. As Peter tries to go downstairs, he gets stuck in the door and asks Chris for help. It's a little tricky, and finally Peter asks to be pushed. Now, Chris, being a heavy kid, gives Peter an aggressive push that launches him down the stairs. Moments later, the screen cuts to the hospital. Dr. Hartman stands over Peter's bed with what sounds like the start of an actual medical update. But no, he informs the family that someone named Ethan survived, but Alan, not so much. None of these people are Peter, and Lois, trying to hold it together, asks the obvious.
What about Peter?
Oh, him. He's in what we call a coma. Now, where's his chart? Ah, here it is.
Griffin, Coma, Peter.
Will he ever recover?
Yes, a comma. Not even coma. Makes you wonder how Dr. Hartman ended up being a licensed doctor. He holds up Peter's chart, proudly labeled Griffin, Peter, like it's the world's saddest library card. While Lois begs him to say Peter will be okay, Peter himself isn't hearing any of this, because he's no longer in the hospital, he's down in an elevator, and he's not alone. God is standing next to him. Peter opens with the one question God immediately shuts down. Anything about Trump. So Peter backs off and says he's got nothing else to ask, which is a lie. He has thousands of questions, all of them dumb. First, he tries to flatter God, saying that he must be everywhere at once. God corrects him and says no, he's thinking of Kevin Hart. Honestly, fair. That man is in every single movie. Peter agrees, and then they both admit they love The Rock.
You know, his real name is Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, I know. We have Us Weekly on Earth, too. Wait, why are you here? Shouldn't you be up in heaven?
But Peter still doesn't understand why God's in an elevator. Shouldn't he be in heaven? God says there was an issue. Some angels came forward and he says something vague we can't quite understand. Peter tries to figure out how he got here. God reminds him he had a couch strapped to his back and fell down the stairs like a bowling ball with nipples. Peter wonders if he's in The Leftovers. God has no idea what that is. Peter explains it's an HBO show starring a bottle of hair dye. Peter asks if God can use his power to open the elevator. Nope. Divine powers don't work in elevators, just like cell phones. Peter says he has a silver one. God calls that rad, and Peter just beams like a child who got praised for coloring inside the lines. Then Peter switches topics again. He says he always dreamed of being stuck in an elevator with Tom Brady. God agrees. That makes two of them. Peter asks if he can ask his Tom Brady questions. God declines. Even he won't speak for Brady. Then comes the big one. Do atheists go to hell? God says no. But when Peter asks about people who say they're spiritual but not religious, God says yes. Straight to hell. The boiler room of hell. And sometimes he pulls them out just to mess with them before putting them right back in.
Hey, do atheists go to hell?
No.
How about people who say they are not religious but they are spiritual?
Straight to hell. To the boiler room of hell. All the way down. Sometimes I pull them out just so they think everything is going to be okay, but then I put them right back in.
Peter smiles. That answer satisfies him deeply. Then he pivots hard. Will Taylor Swift and Katy Perry ever reconcile? God stares at him blankly, then says, sorry, he's looking for the gay guy who can answer that one. That's a genius move, to be honest. Peter asks about the simulation theory. Are we all part of a higher species computer simulation? God says yes. We even get an idea of the alien in charge of Peter's life.
Some people say we're just a computer simulation run by a higher species. Is that true?
It is.
My guy sucks. Want to trade guys for a little while?
Peter starts quizzing God like he's Wikipedia. Can he name every SNL cast member alphabetically? Yes. No featured players. And God goes off. Fred Armisen, Dan Aykroyd, Marlena Banks. Peter's amazed, especially when he nails Gail Mathias. When he asks about kids in the hall, God declines to name the 5 guys in them. Who are they, by the way? Why did he refuse to name them? Can someone tell me in the comments? Anyway, Peter moves on. Does reincarnation exist? Yes. As humans or animals? Both. Peter asks who he used to be. God says he was Henry VIII. Peter is blown away. Then God clarifies. Henry, the 8th guy to sleep with Rock Hudson at a pool party. Peter deflates like a sad balloon.
Who have I been?
You were Henry VIII.
Wow!
Let me finish. You were Henry, the 8th guy to have sex with Rock Hudson at one of his pool parties.
Aw.
Peter asks how many more shows John Stamos will get. God says 0. Peter nods in satisfaction like that was the most important question of the night. He pauses, then asks the real question. Is God real? God turns it around. Do you think I'm real, Peter? Peter says he likes to believe something's out there, something watching over everything, like a nanny cam. Just the idea that you exist is enough to make some people behave better. He adds that when he asked his mom about God as a kid, she said God is love. He liked that. God agrees. Love and God are closely connected. They come from the same place. Peter guesses that place is Tatooine, and God laughs. Even divine beings can't resist a solid Star Wars joke.
God and love are very similar concepts. They come from the same place.
Tatooine?
I always forget you're such a Star Wars guy.
Peter glances at the elevator panel, wonders when it'll be fixed. God says it's not broken. He just hasn't decided where it's going. Peter asks what a mezzanine is. God says it's like a loge. Peter asks what a loge is, but God doesn't know. Then Peter stops. Something clicks. He asks, am I dead? God says yes, and Peter panics. God says if he wasn't dead, he wouldn't feel anything when God pokes him. Then he pokes him. Peter screams in pain. God remembers it takes a full day before the body goes numb. That's tomorrow. So yes, Peter's dead, technically. Peter's voice changes, and he says he can't be dead. His family needs him. God raises an eyebrow, and he says from what he's seen, Peter's family might actually be better off without him. He calls Peter a terrible parent and an inattentive husband. Peter fires back and says God's being judgy. God fires back again, and this time, Peter begs. He says he can do better and be a better dad and husband.
Okay, well, there's a lot to unpack there, but come on, God, you gotta give me another chance. I'll show you how good a husband and father I can be.
God pauses, then agrees. No one's ever asked for that before, so he'll give Peter 1 day, just one, to prove his family's better off with him alive. If he can do that, he gets to come back. And then God snaps his fingers. And just like that, Peter Griffin's back from the coma. He then tries being a better father and husband, but that lasts a grand total of 4 minutes. Then it's straight back to chaos, bacon, and emotional damage. Honestly, God probably knew this would happen, but hey, it made for one unforgettable episode. The second episode where Peter ends up in a coma is Coma Guy. And of course, it involves Peter doing what he does on a regular, and that's embarrassing his entire family in front of their guests. It all starts with a cocktail party Lois is hosting. She's trying to make it a classy evening. There's wine, small talk, and people pretending they read more than they actually do. But Peter immediately ruins the vibe by treating it like a forced company meeting. He starts a game called Everybody Tell Me What Time You're Leaving, which is just Peter trying to say, can we wrap this up already? Lois, trying to salvage the night, steers the conversation toward books. It's a harmless topic until Peter opens his mouth.
I can top that. I ain't ever read a book in my entire life.
Never read a book?
Peter's never read a book.
Yeah, I heard the first guy.
Peter proudly declares he's never read a single book in his life. That's not a surprise to any of us, to be honest. And just like that, the room freezes. People look at him like he just confessed to eating babies. One offended classy lady guest grabs her husband and storms out, declaring this cocktail party is anything but fancy. Now Lois is beyond mortified. She had shopped at Trader Joe's for this. She used real napkins, and in return, Peter detonated the social grenade that is his illiteracy. So in an effort to get Peter to read books, she pulls out a junior high reading list and demands that Peter read every book. There's Little Women, Holes, The Giver, and a few others. Peter, of course, thinks they all sound like adult video titles, but Lois insists he starts with 1984. No negotiations. The next day, Peter drags himself to the public library like a child being forced to do community service. And within seconds of walking in, he sets his backpack down for 1 second, and it's gone. But that's not even the weirdest part. When Peter asks the librarian for 1984, she tells him it's only available on CD. Yes, CD, as in the format you forgot existed. Peter makes a few awkward jokes, flirts with the librarian in the least charming way imaginable, and takes what he thinks will be a boring audiobook. Except when he presses play, 1984 doesn't start with Big Brother, it starts with Van Halen. What Peter hears is not Orwell, it's the opening riff to Panama, and instantly, he's hooked. The music hits him like a spiritual awakening. In Peter's brain, Van Halen isn't just a band, but it's his new lifestyle. He blasts into the house like a teenage boy joyriding in his dad's car, literally. He crashes into the wall while blaring the song.
What?
Did they call?
Peter, what are you doing?
I did what you wanted. I went to the library and I got 1984. What a book!
When Lois asks what he's doing, Peter proudly announces that he followed her instructions, went to the library, and got 1984. Technically, he's not wrong, but instead of George Orwell, he's now completely obsessed with a Van Halen CD that was mislabeled as literature. And that's when things escalate. Fast. Peter begins playing Panama at all hours. He drives around town doing nothing but blasting Van Halen. He crashes the car into the house again, and Lois finally snaps. She tells him to return the CD, but Peter, in full rockstar mode, refuses. He is bonded with this music on a soul level. He would rather disappoint his wife than disappoint David Lee Roth. That's when Lois hits him with the emotional nuke. She brings out the pancake.
I ain't never returning that CD. It's too awesome.
I didn't want to play this card, Peter, but if you won't listen to me, listen to the pancake with slices of banana on it.
It's a pancake with banana eyes and maple syrup tears, and somehow that gets to Peter. The man who once fought a giant chicken for 12 minutes is emotionally broken by a frowning breakfast food. So, reluctantly, he agrees to return the CD. On his drive back to the library, Peter reflects on how his Van Halen phase has come to an end. He thinks he's leaving that life behind. Then, the giant chicken pulls up beside him. The music kicks in. Panama starts blasting. It's an unspoken language, the kind of moment that defines Peter Griffin. He tries to resist and tells himself that he made a promise to a pancake, but the lure of the music and the need to prove himself override everything. They start racing. It's loud, chaotic, and dangerously stupid. And then, mid-race, Peter's attention is grabbed by a squirrel. Not just any squirrel, a working squirrel. He watches in fascination as this squirrel appears to be doing a job and standing on the side of the road. That half second of distraction is all it takes. Peter slams into a tree at full speed.
Working squirrel.
The crash is horrific and Peter's rushed to the hospital. Lois and the kids are gathered around Peter's hospital bed when Dr. Hartman gives them the news. Peter is in a coma. And because this is Family Guy, the delivery of that tragic news comes with a special soundtrack. Dr. Hartman brings an EDM DJ to break it to the kids. Meg and Chris absolutely love it. Lois is livid, but the message is clear. Peter Griffin is officially in a coma again. The doctor explains that even though Peter's unconscious, he can still hear them, so the family should speak to him. Say heartfelt things, talk about memories, say what he means to them. They all stare silently at his unconscious body for a long, long time. This is clearly because they don't have anything nice to say about him, and honestly, I can't blame them. Then Lois casually suggests turning on the TV. The hospital TV buzzes on, and Peter's coma-drenched mind locks into what's playing. It's The Simpsons. What follows isn't a specific scene, but a scrambled fever dream. Peter seems to be with Homer Simpson trying to recreate the disappearing in the bush meme. Then, it all shifts. Peter finds himself trapped inside a small wooden box being carried by a giant frog. This is a callback to the time Peter yeeted a frog out the window in a box, and now the frog's getting its revenge. It's weirdly poetic. The hallucinations get worse. Suddenly, Peter's boiling inside a massive soup bowl, surrounded by panicking miniature versions of himself, all of them screaming towards him, the kind of scene that feels like it was animated after someone licked a hallucinogenic toad. The next setting is a courtroom, but instead of humans, it's filled with giant chickens. The judge is human, but the jury is chickens. The atmosphere is dead serious as the verdict is announced. Peter's sentenced to the worst punishment imaginable, an awkward apology dinner with Joaquin Phoenix.
We find the defendant, Peter Griffin, Bacall.
Peter Griffin, I hereby sentence you to an awkward apology dinner with Joaquin Phoenix.
Back in the real world, the silence around Peter's hospital bed's broken by Joe. His concern's not about Peter's life, but about Peter's legs. Specifically, who gets them? He seems serious because, why not? Peter's dying anyway. But even Cleveland quietly agrees, maybe a bit too soon, Joe. Bonnie arrives with urgency, and unfortunately, the same question. She asks if the family has worked out the leg arrangements. Everyone stares at her in disbelief, and before they can even fully react, the monitor lets out a long flat line. The team rushes in, shocks are delivered. Clear, still nothing. Clear again, still flat. The monitor starts to beep, but Dr. Hartman misses it completely and goes to cover Peter up like he's done for. A doctor has to step in and remind him what a normal heartbeat sounds like. Dr. Hartman, now embarrassed, storms out muttering something about how much he hates the hospital.
No, that's the good sound.
Oh, well, why don't you just do everything? Hate this stupid hospital.
Peter's coma continues. Inside his mind, he's once again drifting. This time, a ship rolls past. On board are familiar faces from his past. Mayor West, Angela, his dad, even Quagmire's long-dead girlfriend from the Clue episode. All of them wave gently at him like ghosts on vacation. Peter doesn't understand what links them together, but they all seem to know him, and they seem to be inviting him to join them. Back in reality, the situation takes a dark turn. Dr. Hartman returns with the news that depending on how Lois feels about Peter, it's either good or bad. She confirms that she loves him. Then comes the hard part. Peter is brain dead. It's time to make a decision. Lois stammers, overwhelmed. She's being asked to pull the plug, and Dr. Hartman adds insult to injury by reminding her that she might be getting a survey about the care today and that he needs all 10s. Lois is speechless. Then the phone rings. She answers and whispers out 6s across the board. Well, that's even way higher than what Dr. Hartman actually deserves.
I may have to pull the plug on my husband.
Yeah, I can't do anything about that, but really, we really need the 10s. It's 2 minutes for you, it's a job or not for me.
Hello? 6. Yes, 6 across the board.
Meanwhile, inside the coma world, Peter approaches the ship. A man gently tells him it's his time to board. Peter hesitates, says thank you, and starts to climb. Then he asks the only question that really matters. What's the Wi-Fi password? There is none. Peter freezes. No Wi-Fi? Suddenly, he wants to live. His eyes shoot open, he gasps loudly in the hospital bed. Lois leans over, stunned. He looks down at the unplugged machine next to him. That's a plug. The realization hits. Lois just tried to let him go. She tries to explain, and she says it was incredibly difficult and that she didn't want to do it, but Peter's too busy fuming about being nearly unplugged to hear the details. And just then, an insurance agent walks in to collect on a missed mortgage payment. Peter sees an opportunity and flatlines himself on the spot. The agent pretends to believe it and also starts setting up his cotton candy machine right there in the hospital room. But Peter, unable to resist, starts beeping again. Later at home, the tension still lingers. Peter's still angry that his own family tried to off him. Lois insists they apologize, but that seems to not be working. Then, after she's pushed to the very end by Peter, she takes a deep breath and lets it all out.
But you know what? It was a relief.
What?
There, I said it. You know what it's like being married to you? Every day wondering if my husband's gonna die from something stupid. Crashing your Peter copter, getting eaten at the zoo, running into a tunnel that's not really a tunnel, but just something the roadrunner painted on the side of a rock.
She's absolutely right. There's always something stupid about to kill him. Crashing homemade helicopters, climbing into animal cages, running into rock walls painted like tunnels, it never ends. She's amazed he's not been wiped out by some weird VR tech mishap already. And to be honest, I'm also amazed at how Peter has managed to stay alive all this time. She goes on saying that when the moment came when the doctor asked her to pull the plug, she felt a strange, brief moment of peace. She pulled it, but then instantly regretted it. In the end, Peter has a set of weird demands that must be fulfilled before he forgives them, but it looks like they've made up. Peter's second coma was everything you expect from a man who discovered reading through Van Halen. A crash car, weird coma dreams, and a family one decision away from moving on. But somehow, Peter woke up again. Peter Griffin has been in a coma 2 times. First, in Are You There, God, it's me, Peter, and then again in Coma Guy. But let's be honest, with the things he does, those numbers are criminally low. Just like Lois said, we're all amazed how he's still alive. Somehow, Peter keeps dodging death like it's part of his morning routine.